Or for viewers as well. Let's get into our next discussion now. And Moody's Investor Services today expected to make an announcement on the country's credit rating. That should happen later this evening. Now, the agency has the country's credit rating currently at Baa3 with a stable outlook. Fitch and S&P both downgraded South Africa to sub-investment grade, or what is known as junk status, in 2017. Which way will Moody sway? That's the question. Now, most analysts expecting it to perhaps only lower the country's outlook from stable to negative. But if the agency does react, to what extent will load shedding and the like shape its decision? While there is a general apprehension about today's decision, others say there is a possibility that Moody's will do absolutely nothing and decide to wait until after the May elections or its next scheduled judgment. Whatever the decision, Moody's will take into account the state of the economy as well as the dim growth prospects. And let's review. Now we get into this discussion, and Isaah Mhlanga joins us now. He's from Alexander Forbes, and we unpack this picture just a little bit more. Isaah, thank you so much for your time here this afternoon. Change in the outlook? No change? Keep things as they are? What do you think Moody's will do?
I don't expect any change in either the credit rating or the outlook, primarily because if you look on the basis of numbers, whether be it economic growth or the fiscal numbers, they are just about what Moody's expect. I mean, in February, if you look at what Minister Mboweni tabled, 60.2% in terms of the debt to GDP ratio, it's a decimal point deterioration from what we already knew in October last year. Also, if you look at the fiscal deficit, it goes to 4.5% of GDP from 4.2% of GDP. That's a 0.3 percentage points deterioration. But if you look over the past 12 months, the reforms that are ongoing, that have been implemented, that continue to be implemented, I think for me those outweigh the decimal points deterioration in the fiscal numbers.
Yeah. Are we doing enough then to change South Africa's economy? And I ask that because if we don't change whether it be the outlook or get a downgrade from Moody's, all it does perhaps is kick the can down the road. Now, I'm not just advocating for a downgrade here because there are dire consequences to that, but do we not feel like a reprieve just keeps on giving us another chance and another chance, and we just seem to be, not doing much with it?
I think if we consider the damage that was done to the economy for the past 10 years, it's not going to be undone over a 12-month period.
Yeah.
We just have to accept that. To turn around the economy, to rebuild institutions like your SARS, like our security cluster, like National Treasury, it takes time. But what we have seen over the past 12 months is quite positive, such that if we continue on the same trajectory, and perhaps if we get President Ramaphosa's drive for fixed investment to attract about $100 billion over the next 5 years, that will lift economic growth, which automatically will solve our debt trajectory issues. So given the benefit of time, the economy is likely going to improve. Also, the global environment is currently quite supportive in terms of emerging markets. That should help over the next 18 months or so. So if they don't downgrade or if they don't change the outlook this time around, I'm quite positive things are going to improve.
I will argue, though, and say that, even just earlier this week alone, we were worried about global growth and the concerns around that. And if global growth weakens, we may have decoupled from the rest of the world, but essentially, our trade partners struggle. That means they struggle to buy from us, which means that we'll struggle to get any sort of proper growth that we'd like. If that happens, that doesn't necessarily mean we're going to have a good picture, and the emerging market space may look good, but not necessarily in South Africa. You also had 2018, which was a great investment year for South Africa, right? But to sustain that, you need to have continued growth. So where do we even out the basis in order to have the best argument to keep things where they are with regards to Moody's?
I think if you look at last year, growth was quite good. 3.7% globally.
Yeah, most recession though.
Locally, we had a recession. Yes. That's true, because most of the issues are domestic issues, not global issues.
Fair enough.
So even if we have a slowdown in terms of global growth, it's still decent growth which continues to support other countries. So it means we have to solve our own house. We have to put our house in order and solve some of the structural issues that hold South Africa's economic growth. Why did we have low growth for quite a sustained time? It's because the private sector was not investing locally, not because of lack of funds or lack of investment money to invest in the local economy. They were investing in Eastern Europe, they were investing in the rest of Africa, but was because of the lack of business confidence in the local economy. But once you see that confidence pick up, given all the reforms or all the meetings and summits and investment conference, the job summits that were held last year, to try and bridge that trust deficit between government and private sector, we will start to see that investment flowing in. And by the way, as of yesterday, there was an announcement of a fund to invest in small medium enterprises, which was held between private sector and business. That is, one piece of evidence that says there is mending of that trust deficit between private sector and government, which should help in terms of stimulating domestic investment. Once you have that investment stimulation locally, it should start to boost economic growth.
We hope. As you said, it should. 1.3% is the growth figure for 2019, according to the South African Reserve Bank. Yours?
1.3%, which is also still very low to where we should have it. If you look at national treasuries, some of this risk analysis, we need at least 2.4% economic growth for us to stabilize the debt to GDP ratio. Anything that is less than 2.4% is not going to stabilize.
When do we get there? At the current rate?
Current rate, 2022, 2023, which is way far from where we are. That's why you see all these concerted efforts to try and galvanize private sector investment.
Would you say then that we are building a solid enough base to get to that level, to get to ensure that we will definitely, because we've missed a lot of our projections in the last few years with regards to growth and the like as well. Are we building a solid enough base that in 4 or 5 years we will be able, however, to reach those levels that we seek?
If we consider the global environment to continue to be supportive, yes, I believe we're building enough solid base. What is more important is to rebuild institutional strength. That is what foreign investors want to see. Once you have your institutional strength in place, it means most of the processes that need to take place will automatically take place. But the issue that we have had over the past couple of years is our institutions were broken down, which means there was lack of trust in proper administration of the economy going forward. But that is being maintained, and I'm quite confident we're going to get there.
The decision by Moody is usually around 10 p.m., I think, this evening, if I'm not mistaken. Are you going to stay up for that?
I will be up. The moment it's up, I'm going to get a notification on my phone.
We'll have a discussion then at 10 p.m., hopefully, just to see some positive news there. Thank you so much for that. Isaah Mhlanga, the Executive Chief Economist at Alexander Forbes, of course, giving us just some thoughts with regards to that Moody's decision expected out around 10 p.m. or so later this evening. Will they cut South Africa's outlook, be it as it is at Baa3 with a stable outlook, or do they just downgrade us to non-investment grade, or perhaps even keep things on hold? We can only hope. Your money